Welcome into another exciting edition of Locked On 76ers. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. 76ers continue to struggle in the third quarter. I know Nick Nurse was brainstorming some ideas to solve the problems. Now, Keith Pompey and I will take our crack at it on this edition of Locked On 76ers.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And we do thank you for making Locked On 76ers your first listen every day, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. And we thank you for watching the program. We thank you for following the program as well. And this particular program is brought to you by FanDuel, where new customers can bet just $5. And if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. So head to FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com. Keith Pompey. This problem has nagged the Sixers through 11 games this season. And whenever I see a team struggle the way they've struggled in the third quarter, it takes me all the way back to the process. And I don't mean like, oh, Joel Embiid's healthy and he's playing the process. No, I mean like being terrible and committed to being terrible for 3 straight years. The third quarter issue going into the last game the Sixers had here against the Celtics, they were a minus 8.8 in point differential in the third quarter, and the Celtics almost doubled that. Mm-hmm. What are you seeing in the third quarter that you think Nick Nurse or this team could crack the code on in order to become a team that doesn't just go away in the third?
You know, I think the main thing is you got to have them ready. Because, typically when I remember I talked to a guy who played for the Sixers, and he said in the NBA game is all about, you got to be ready to start the game, and then you got to be ready at the start of the second half. And then it turns into like a pickup game. And then the last 6 minutes, you hope it's close. And then that's when it comes down to coaching. So the thing that I keep seeing is that, if it happens here and there, then you say, okay, well, they struggled a little bit. But it just seems like it's an annual thing. No, I mean, not an annual. It's a daily thing, like game to game, that where they come out and they come out flat. So my question is, what are we doing to make sure that they play with more intensity? Now, Tyrese Maxey said this last game that they played in, they came out, they hit a couple shots, and then all of a sudden Boston came out and came back and kind of destroyed them. But to me, what is happening at halftime? I mean, are these guys getting a little lax? Are they feeling themselves? But there just doesn't appear to be a sense of urgency at the start of the second half, because you can say 1 game, 2 games. No, every game. There just doesn't seem to be a sense of urgency. And that's something that has to be corrected.
Yeah, Nick Nurse, one of the things that he suggested was they don't even go into the locker room at halftime. They just stay there on the bench. Yeah. And I'm like, all right, whatever. Hey, whatever it takes. Be out there for a T-shirt toss. Be out there for Red Panda. I don't care. Whatever keeps the flow going from the first and second quarter into the second half. Let's party. But is it a tempo thing? Can Nick Nurse do something other than some kind of rah-rah speech in the last minute of the halftime? Is there anything schematically where you try to focus more on one-on-one play, let one player like Maxey try to break a guy down? Maybe, and we'll talk about it a little bit more later. VJ Edgecombe, he hits turbo like we know he can. Do you try to play more down in the blocks and slow it down a little bit to dictate the pace of play? Is there anything you'd like to see from Nick Nurse from a schematic standpoint, from a strategy standpoint, in order to put the quarter back in the machine after halftime?
Well, I mean, the thing is, I guess the main thing is like the ball has to continue moving. Like, there are certain times in the beginning of the game where, there's a conscious effort to move the ball, right? A lot of times when we saw in the third quarter, in certain games, there were games when Joel was there where the thing was, let's force feed him. Let's get him going. I just feel like you got to continue with the same principles you had at the beginning of the game, the same principles you had in the beginning of the thing. Cutting to the basket, moving, make it less stagnant. But also you got to understand something. The main thing is on the defensive end, like this last game, Boston shot 60-something%. Jaylen Brown struggled mightily in the first half. You had to know that they were going to come out there and they were going to make some adjustments for him. You had to know that he is an all NBA type guy who has a lot of pride, that he's going to come out and he's going to try to impose his will. So you have to know those things. But it goes back to me, the main thing that they have to do is you got to move the ball. That's early on, but then it gets to a point where, to me, it looks like certain guys are saying, I got to get myself going. You know what I mean? I got to get myself going. I got to get my numbers up. And the ball's just been stagnant. And I get it. They want to do this two-man game, not just with Joel Embiid, but Joel Embiid with Maxey, Joel Embiid with Edgecombe, Joel Embiid with Grimes. Nah. Right now, in the start of the third quarter, you got to continue to move the ball, have guys cut to the basket, do a lot of different things, because to me, it just seems like the ball, that's when everything gets stagnant. And then when they start struggling, then all of a sudden they go back to it. They go back to the things that they think is right. But in the beginning of the third quarter, it's not time to be stat chasing. It's time to move the ball and do all the things that you can do to make sure that you stay in this game.
Yeah, the last two games, the Pistons and the Celtics, it was almost like the Sixers were shocked that Jaylen Brown was going to go off, or not even go off, but attempt to go off. Like, take control. Yeah. I know I'm better than this. Third quarter, fourth quarter with Cade Cunningham. The whole second half with Cade Cunningham. Were you surprised that he's a good basketball player? Like, what? I don't understand. He was going to make an adjustment here in the second half to be a lot better than what he was in the first half. So those things have caught me a little off guard, just to see how off guard the Sixers have been caught by two very talented players. And quite frankly, right now, the focus of the team, I mean, Cade Cunningham will be that guy for the whole season, and Jaylen Brown obviously will be that guy this year for the Celtics without Jason Tatum. So I find that surprising that the Sixers are taken by surprise in that regard. The other thing is, you got to, if you're struggling, I think you have to go back to your bread and butter. You have to go back to what makes you a team that could very well be and should be a playoff team this year. And that's playing fast. Now, a lot of times when I see a team struggling, I'd rather them slow it down, don't make the mistake. But this team is just so much better when they're the aggressor and they're playing up tempo, and they certainly have the pieces to do it. But even in that regard, this is what has me thinking maybe the problem is chemistry, where they don't know yet. They know how to play with one another. They know how to start out a game. But it seems like it takes them that third quarter to adjust to whatever the adjustment is from the opponent. And rather than just stick to what makes them good, they start going and breaking off into either an individual game, or they start breaking off into a two-man game when Joel Embiid is out there. And it's just maintain what makes you a good team. Like, the best version of the Sixers is when they're playing up-tempo. And don't be caught off guard if a guy is struggling in the first half that you know is a talented basketball player, i.e. Jaylen Brown, i.e. Cade Cunningham, who will get their second crack at tomorrow. And go back to your bread and butter and don't let the moment be too big for you. If it starts to get out of control, like it did with a 16-point differential against the Celtics, then maybe you take that beat and you slow it down. But it really seems like the Sixers get taken off their rhythm and momentum at halftime, and coming out, whatever a guy like Joe Mazzulla is up to at halftime, whatever that adjustment is, the Sixers just seem ill-prepared for it. And then when things start to snowball, they don't know how to stop that ball rolling downhill.
Yeah, I mean, and you're 100% right. Like, when we look at it, let's talk about it. Right now we're talking about how many points do they score in the third quarter. I mean, their average is 23.1 points, right? They are shooting 37.8% in that quarter, right? They're shooting 25.8% in that quarter as well. And if you notice something about that, think about it. A lot of times when we see it, there's like the thing that gets us, that gets them, is that the lack of rebounding too. They're averaging 10. It sounds like, okay, you're averaging 10 rebounds, but at the same time, a lot of them are like, they're not coming on the offensive end. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I think that when we look at it, it's like you're shooting poorly and you're having a tough time scoring. But then the crazy part about that is when you look at it, then the fourth quarter comes, right? We talked about what they were shooting in the third. In the fourth quarter, they're averaging 31.5 points, right? And they're shooting 45.4% from the field. So that's better. You know what I mean? So it just seems like, the 76ers, whatever they're doing, it's like, and that's why I keep going back to the sense of urgency, to like, you're looking at this, you're doing that. It's like, it just seems like, and a lot of times, they play well in the second quarter, they have a lead, they come back out, and it's like they just roll the ball out and they don't attack. And the thing is, you get it where you have enough veteran players on this roster to basically say, hey, look, guys, we got to get this. This is extremely important. Again, a dude told me years ago that the focus should be coming out in the third quarter hard, setting that tempo. The next thing you know, you start staggering things. You want to keep it close. And then the last 6 minutes is like of the game is when you say, okay, it's time to close out. We got our dogs in here, our horses in here, and we're going to win this game. But you need to play with more intensity at the start of the third quarter. You have to, and I don't see that.
Yeah, I agree, and I wouldn't mind seeing Nick Nurse just keep him out there on the bench for all of halftime. That'd be a sight to be seen. I will say that much. All right, when we come back, VJ Edgecombe just continues, unfortunately, to disappear after just 6 points now against the Boston Celtics in the entire game, falling down now, I believe, to second in the NBA in scoring amongst rookies behind Con Knipple. We'll talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers on the Locked On Sixers YouTube channel. Now, let me tell you about Wayfair with the holidays just around the corner. You want to make sure the house is looking pristine, right? Of course you do. That's where Wayfair can help you out. Wayfair is absolutely fantastic with the holiday season just around the corner, and that means when it's time to get the house dressed up, Wayfair and Black Friday sales are here to help you make your space shine during the holiday season. And what's the best part? You don't have to wait. Wayfair's Black Friday deals are happening all month long. I know my wife has been all over this, getting some new curtains from Wayfair for the holiday season, dressing up the living room, dressing up the dining room as well. Come on. Wayfair has it all. 70% off, by the way, everything from sofas to spatulas on Wayfair. Like I said, we upgraded our dining room with some new curtains from Wayfair. It's going to look fantastic. Don't miss out. Early Black Friday deals at Wayfair.com. So head to Wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday sale for up to 70% off. 70% off. Wayfair. That's Wayfair.com. Wayfair.com for up to 70% off. Sale ends December 7th at Wayfair.com. VJ Edgecombe, Keith Pompey, what is going on? Just last week, we were talking about how to get VJ Edgecombe up and running again. Over the last 5 games, now he's got the 34-point game in his debut, which got us all excited. Then a game later, a game in between, he had 26 points against the Orlando Magic. Since then, his high is 17 points. And he is coming off a 6-point performance on 2 of 6 shooting from beyond the arc, 2 of 11 from field goals from the floor in that win over the Boston Celtics. Now, I will give him all the credit in the world. When you guys caught up to him after shooting 2 for 11 from the floor against the Celtics, he was kind of making light of it. He had the face of, oh, wow, that's really bad. That's really bad. That's really bad. So I don't think his confidence really is taking a hit, but he is certainly struggling on the floor. What are you seeing from VJ that is unfortunately leading to that of a 6-point performance?
Initially, I felt like it was one of those things where he just wasn't being involved in the offense, right? And now you look at it and you say maybe he can be a little bit fatigued, right? But when you say that, if we look at VJ Edgecombe, probably his most productive quarters is the fourth quarter, late in the game, and he's knocking down shots and he's making hustle plays. I mean, so that shows the will of a winner.
Right.
But it just seems like his shot's just not there. And And maybe it's because he's asked to do a lot. Now, I will say this. His minutes have decreased. Like, when they played against Chicago and Cleveland, which were back-to-back nights, he played 37 minutes, 43 seconds. The next night, he played 37-13. And then the following game against Toronto, he played 35-32. Well, he played 35 minutes the last game. So that diffuses some of that. But then the one game against Detroit, he was only on there for 41 minutes, right? 31 minutes.
Uh-huh.
Now, the problem is a lot of these shots just aren't falling, right? And it really started against when they played the Brooklyn Nets, right? Now, when he played Brooklyn, you remember he started off and he was struggling from the field, and he ended up shooting 2 for 6 from 3, but then he started getting layups and all that stuff in the second half, and he ended up shooting 6 for 12. But in the 5 games since then, Mark, he is shooting 27.9% from the field and only 25% from 3. He's averaging 9.4 points over those games. And so he's averaging 2 turnovers as well. But it just seems like, to me, he looks fatigued. But the only thing is he keeps rising to the occasion at times and coming up with a clutch shot here or a key defensive play, in the fourth quarter. So with that being said, it's kind of like an enigma to me. Like, what's going on? Like, why can't he do it? And initially I thought it was playing with Joel Embiid. Then I thought it was maybe fatigue. And now I'm just mind-boggled a little bit on why this guy keeps struggling.
Well, I think that's actually the answer, to be honest with you. I do love his mindset, and I've certainly had my fun over the years when Robert Covington was asked about his shooting struggles, and he said, "I'm not struggling, my shot's just not falling." I'm like, no, but that's it. That's exactly what we're asking you about. That's exactly the point. But he was looked at as a 3-and-D guy. VJ Edgecombe is not only looking to knock down some threes for this team, he's also expected to play some great defense for you, and he's also a guy that should be able to attack the rim. So I look at it as a little bit different, but where I do find the similarity is he doesn't get down on himself. Like he doesn't mope, he doesn't, drop his head. He's always 100% all the time. And I don't say this as an excuse, because the bottom line is he needs to be better. He needs to find a way to adjust to the professional game. But when you look for reasons why he could be struggling, not excuses, but reasons, I think it is the back-to-backs, and I think it is, am I playing with Embiid tonight? Am I not playing with Embiid tonight? Now Jared McCain's here, even though he's not taking a bulk of the minutes by any means, but it's another guy to adjust to. He is adjusting to NBA life. And when you come out there and you come out, swinging like he did against the Celtics in the first game of the season with 34 points, and then you also put on display 2 games later what you could do against the Orlando Magic, another playoff team, that kind of thing. You're talking about a guy learning to adjust to the NBA level of play. It wasn't going to be all gravy. You got to learn to adjust to play with the guys around you. You got to learn to adjust when other guys are available around you that you're not used to. And then the other aspect of it is, hold on a second, I got another one of these games tomorrow. Like, that's got to be a difficult thing. But one of the things I really like about VJ Edgecombe, and this is a constant, especially coming out of the draft, is it's really hard to bet against a guy that has talent, but also an unstoppable work ethic. He's going to find a way through this. I do believe that. I don't think he's going to be a guy to average 30 points a game. I don't think he's going to have another 34-point game as the season goes on, maybe one. But I'm certainly not going to be expecting it from him. If you do, good for him. But I think all of this in the first 11 games as a professional, when you're dealing with back-to-backs and a fluid lineup, I think all of that leads to the struggles where he's trying to find his place still at the NBA level.
Yeah, I mean, that's true. And here's the thing. He did start off so strong. He started off strong to a point where it was unexpected, right? I mean, if we're going to be real, like it was, like no one expected him to go out there and score 34 points. Like, we were talking about maybe he'll be a better fit coming off the bench. Now, I also feel like that teams are looking at him now as, hey, Tyrese Maxey is number one atop of the scouting report. We know what Joel can do, but hey, we got to pay attention to this Edgecombe guy. Like, let's not, even though some of those misses he makes, I mean, the misses that he would typically make, it's kind of like, but let's make him go to a spot on the floor that he doesn't really want to go to. Like, let's do this. And then another thing is, he is guarding on the other end. Now he's guarding, the opposing team, maybe not their best offensive player, but their second best. So he has to exert energy on both ends. But I do think that the scouting report, the last 5 games he struggled. That was 6 games before that where he basically played well. Well, after 5 games and people are looking at you and they're like, okay, we got more stuff that we can see and we know that we can do. So which makes it a little, tougher for him. But like you said, it's too early to count this guy out. This is just something that he's going to have to go through. And once he gets through it, it's only going to make him and the 76ers better. And unfortunately for him, he doesn't have Paul George or other people on the floor at all times that's freeing him up to get open looks. Right now, stopping him is on top of the scouting report. And that's where, some of these struggles also lie as well, because he has to be as a rookie, he has to be a standout two-way player for the Sixers. He has to stand out on both ends of the floor.
Yeah. At this point right now, whenever it is Paul George joins this team, we talked about Kelly Oubre staying in the lineup. Does that then mean Oubre goes to 2 and Edgecombe does come off the bench, you think? Do you think that's what we're approaching? No, you think he stays in the starting lineup?
Unfortunately for Trendon Watford, the last really solid game he had was that triple-double. Like the last 2 games that Trendon Watford had, he kind of struggled, right? And I don't know if all of it was because of him, like because the last game in particular, I'm seeing him run to the corner and waiting for a catch and shoot 3. That ain't his game, in my opinion. So I feel like with VJ Edgecombe right now, the thing is you want to keep him involved. I think that, Paul George will probably be the power forward. When you look at PG, he's around the same height as Trendon Watford, those other guys. I think that PG will be the power forward and VJ Edgecombe would be the 2. Now, that's
and
what
then Oubre's at 3.
And Oubre's at 3. Yeah,
right. As long as Oubre is still in that starting lineup.
Yeah, I mean, dude, Oubre is guarding the opposing team's best player.
Yep.
He's making heady plays. I mean, at the beginning of the season, he was being overshadowed by Maxey and Edgecombe, but he was playing just as well. Maybe not as many points, but when you factor in what he's doing on both sides of the ball, both sides of the floor, yeah, he's been playing well.
Absolutely. When we come back, we talked about VJ Edgecombe's minutes. We're going to talk about Tyrese Maxey's minutes and see if this is sustainable. Over 40 minutes per night for Tyrese Maxey. Talk about that and more when we return. This is Locked On 76ers. And right now, I'm going to tell you about BILT. How great is this? Come on, just stop. Just stop paying rent in general, just letting it go to rent. That's it. I'm just going to pay the rent. That's it. Well, what if you could get more for your rent money? That's where BILT comes in, because nobody likes paying rent. But if you must, you might as well get something else for it. That's where BILT does, in fact, come in. BILT is changing the game by turning your rent payment into real rewards you could use, and it's fantastic. When you pay rent through BILT, you earn flexible points that can be redeemed toward hundreds of hotels and airlines, a future rent payment, your next Lyft ride, and so much more. But BILT isn't just about rent. It's about rewarding you around your entire neighborhood. That's why BILT is fantastic. Whether I'm grabbing food, whether you're grabbing food at a favorite local restaurant or heading to the gym, it's still earning rewards. BILT has made everyday life feel more rewarding. From your neighborhood to travel plans. Turn your rent into rewards and start earning points right now around your neighborhood by going to joinbuilt.com/lockedonnba. That's joinbilt.com/lockedonnba. Make sure to use that link so that they know that we sent you when we talk about BILT. That is BILT, BILT, built. And right now, it's time to tell you about FanDuel and all the great fun you guys could be having right now with FanDuel. For instance, new customers to FanDuel can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you get $300 in bonus bets to use across the FanDuel app. NBA season well upon us right now, but even if you miss the start of a game or you want to ride a hot hand, FanDuel has live bets unfolding right in front of your very eyes on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at even a bigger pot. It gives every game much more excitement, especially when your team's making that late push. Right now, FanDuel is giving away to new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet hits. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game at FanDuel.com. That's FanDuel.com, official sports betting partner of the NBA. We got, 40.6 minutes per game right now with Tyrese Maxey to this point in the season, Keith?
Yeah.
Seems like a lot.
Yeah.
Is that sustainable for the 76ers facilitator and third in the league in scoring?
I don't think is sustainable. The thing is, the heart is a tough situation though right now, because when you don't have Paul George, you don't have Joel. You got Joel Embiid on a minutes restriction. You need consistent points from someone, and he's the one who provides it, right? And the crazy part about it is, the last game that he played in, he played the least amount of points that he played in all season in the victory against the Boston Celtics. Tyrese Maxey logged 33 minutes and 39 seconds. Before that, the low was when they lost to Chicago. He only played 36-27, but that was because the game was essentially over, right? The question that I had with the last game was, when he was out there, you kind of say, where's the offense going to come from? Because guys were struggling, right? And you're looking at it. But luckily for them, Justin Edwards had his best game of the season. The question is, you ask yourself, is that sustainable, right? Just like you asked, is Maxey going to play those many minutes? And I don't think so, neither one of them. Because, remember last year, Maxey suffered an injury. He's been a guy who hasn't been injured before. And you have to question, was that injury associated with logging so many minutes? And I'm fearful that if he keeps this up, even though now 33 was great, but if he keeps this up, is he going to be susceptible to another injury? But here's something else I got to say, and I know this is a sidebar real quick, and we don't have to do it. I'll talk more about it, but I just got to point this out. So you got Tyrese Maxey at 40.5 minutes a game. VJ Edgecombe is number 2 at 37.3 a game. Cade Cunningham is number 3 at 37. And then Kelly Oubre is number 4 at 36.6. So it's a Tyrese Maxey, 40 minutes, you can't do that. But a larger problem is you got 3 of the top 4 players in the leagues with minutes played. That's not good. And we're talking about your backcourt and your small forward. That's not good. That's not good right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I was also just looking at the other scorers right now in the NBA. There's 4 that average over 30 points per game. Donovan Mitchell, Tyrese Maxey, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, and Giannis Antetokounmpo. Of those guys, Maxey at 40.5 points per game. I think I said 40.6, but it's 40.5 minutes per game. Nobody else is averaging even 35 minutes a game.
Yes.
You have Giannis at 33.4. You have SGA at 32.5 and Donovan Mitchell at 30.4. Maxey obviously running away with it when it comes to minutes per game. It's unreal. So, I like to think that when it comes to depth, especially with guards, the Sixers have depth. Now, they don't have another guy that's going to score 33 points per game in terms of a guard. But I'd like to think that Nick Nurse could mix it up a little bit. Or do you think that this is exactly what they need to do right now at this point in the season to tread water when you're still getting Jared McCain back, his legs back under him? You're still waiting for Paul George to come back. and you're also waiting for Joel Embiid to get his legs under him, which, this might be as good as it gets right now, unfortunately.
You know what? I kind of think that Nick Nurse is trying to mix it up a little bit. And the reason why I'm saying that is because, like, the last game he did only play, and we're saying only, he only played 33 minutes, which, so when I see something like that, I do see the coach trying, like realizing that I got these guys, injured, and I'm not injured, but tired. They're fatigued. And he knows what's going on. He said something after the last game, because if you notice, they played all those games in a row, and then they got like 2 games in a total of 5 or 6 days or whatever.
Yeah.
So he said, I got 4 players who I basically don't want to do anything. Like, don't do anything when it's off. And, you're assuming those 4 players are, 3 of them are Maxey, Edgecombe, Kelly Oubre. Now, you can say the 4th one could be Joel Embiid, or it could be Quentin Grimes, who is logging a lot of minutes as well. You know what I mean? He's in the 33-minute range, or 31. But at the same time, it's one of those things where you look at it and you say that the coach has to know this for him to make that kind of statement about that.
No, fair enough. All right. I look forward to seeing how all this develops. Now, again, Sixers have a off day today. They're back at it tomorrow. That'll be against the Detroit Pistons, who have only won 8 in a row. So that's fun. And we'll be breaking that down even further tomorrow. Keith Pompey, Marc Farzetta. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, Locked On 76ers, and make sure you guys like and subscribe on Inquirer.com as well, where you guys can read Mr. Keith Pompey himself break it all down. By the way, thank you for watching Locked On 76ers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 podcast network. So make sure you guys check out everything Locked On Sports, including Locked On Eagles on the Locked On Eagles YouTube channel today. I'll be there with Jason Martinez, Harry Mays, Louis DiBiase. We'll be breaking down all that is to talk about the 7-2 circus that is the Philadelphia Eagles. Also, don't forget to check out Fantasy Basketball, Locked On Fantasy Basketball with host Josh Lloyd. He makes you the smarter NBA fan as well as help you win your fantasy basketball league. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Find Locked On Fantasy Basketball on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcast. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Like and subscribe. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.